Welcome back. You're watching HFO TV.
Welcome back to HFO TV. I'm Greg Frick, partner at HFO Investment Real Estate. Today we have Charles Kovas here to speak with us again. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to talk a little bit about some of the effects of the marijuana laws for multifamily owners in Oregon and Washington. Now that locally they are, marijuana is passed as being legal. It's still illegal federally, which adds some complexities to how you're going to run your multifamily projects. So, thank you again for coming, and let's just jump right into it. Where are we today in terms of, I own multifamily. I've got a tenant that wants to come in and use, recreational marijuana, which is legal in Oregon and Washington. Now, how does that play into what my obligation is as a landlord, the rental agreement, and things like that?
Well, you hit the nail right on the head. The complexity is that it's still illegal under federal law to consume marijuana, but it's legal under Washington law, as well as in Oregon. The first thing to remember is that if it's a federally subsidized property, owner or a landlord is not permitted to allow a tenant to use marijuana. And
even if they want to?
Even if
it's federally subsidized, that's because of the federal law supersedes. Gotcha.
That's right.
Okay.
But if it's individually owned, then a landlord may allow a tenant to use marijuana or hemp cannabis, which we're hearing more about with really the explosion of CBDs in the market.
Right.
CBDs are just one chemical in marijuana different from THC, but the fundamental distinction is that THC has a psychoactive effect. It gets you high.
Right, well, the other one.
Cannabidiol, CBDs, don't, and that's the chemical compound that's purported to have medical efficacy.
Right.
And just so that your viewers know, I'm not a doctor, but I have looked at a lot of the studies. Historically, CBDs have been shown to protect against epileptic seizures and potentially help with anxiety.
Inflammation, a variety of...
That's right.
Okay.
But full-scale studies have yet to really be done, and certainly they don't have a lot of longitudinal breadth when they're looking at the effects of the chemicals over time.
Okay.
So it's important for your viewers to remember that the use of the marijuana is not illegal under state law, but it may be improper under a rental agreement. If a rental agreement says no smoking, that includes marijuana.
Right.
If a rental agreement does not say no smoking, smoke that leaves one apartment and affects the quiet use and enjoyment of the premises by another resident is the basis for a notice of termination for cause.
Okay. So that really doesn't have to do with marijuana use, so to speak. That's just smoking causing the ability of the neighbor having quiet use and enjoyment of their space.
That's right.
Be it a cigarette, whatever it is, it's not specific to marijuana. That's just...
That's right.
Right.
And given the proliferation of the various ways to ingest marijuana, someone who believes they need it for a medical condition or simply wants it and it's tolerated can ingest it in different forms. They can eat it. There's oil that they can use as sublingual. There are vape pens, but I would point out that the vape pens generally come under the Clean Air Act.
They do, okay.
So vape pens can be restricted just like smoke can be restricted.
Away from public entries and things like that.
That's right.
Gotcha, okay.
The last thing to remember is that federal law has not recognized marijuana as a substance with medical efficacy. So a landlord is not required to grant an accommodation to a tenant for use of
medical marijuana. Got it.
That's right. So if your landlords are still philosophically against it, they have support with federal law as well as the respective landlord.
But in doing that, they have to make sure the rental agreement says state and federal laws that you can't do anything illegal state or federally.
That's right.
Within the rental agreement.
Every rental agreement should always
Have that in
say
there. Right.
tenants agree to obey all applicable federal laws.
And I know most of the organizations here, have that in there, but if somebody's, using their own rental agreement, God help them, make sure that's in there.
That's
Yeah.
critically important.
Yes, okay.
The only other thing that would be worth pointing out to your viewers is hemp is no longer illegal under federal law. So to the extent that a marijuana grower grows biomass that is less than 0.3% THC,
that's not illegal federally.
that is not illegal federally.
But you may have issues in your unit just in terms of not necessarily being hemp, but somebody having hydroponics, drawing too much power, heavy dose of moisture within a unit. That's different. That's not, again, they may be at a fault because of what they're doing in the unit. It's not necessarily because it's hemp or marijuana. It's just
That's exactly
it's
right.
kind of like doing heavy equipment, and there's some things you're just not going to. Okay, so the clarity really is making sure your rental agreements are up to date. If it's smoking, it's kind of in line with if I've got a no smoking building. It doesn't, no smoking is not really, we're not specifying what you can and cannot smoke, it's just no smoking.
Exactly right, because the smoke
Is what-
interferes with
Gotcha.
someone else's quiet use and enjoyment of their own tenancy.
Okay, and then on the medical marijuana, I've got a medical marijuana card, I've got it from a doctor. Because of the federal law, it's not recognized. You're not required to make an accommodation for that tenant.
That's right.
Gotcha.
But as a practical matter, if they're eating
Right.
gummy bears, are you really ever going to know?
Exactly.
Is it really going to bother
Right,
anyone?
right.
And that's ultimately a decision for the landlord to make, provided that obey all federal laws provision is in the rental agreement.
And again, I think a lot of this goes back to landlords being educated and also being active in the organization, so they have the most up-to-date forms and they have the most up-to-date how to do things, because if not, you're going to end up it'll be good for trouble. You'll be making a lot of phone calls to your attorney because you're going to get into trouble if you're not up to date on your forms.
The best thing any landlord can do is update their forms regularly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for coming in on that. I know that's been a question that's kind of popped up with various owners through, a lot of times it's been the smaller owners who've kind of done more hands-on on how they're managing it. What do I do with that situation? So thanks again for Charles to come and kind of update us on that. And if you have questions or need any answers, his contact information is below. And we'll thank you again, and we'll see you on HFO TV.
Thanks for having me.
Thank
Craig.
you. That was great. Thank you.
Our entire office specializes in multifamily real estate, making HFO the largest multifamily brokerage in the Pacific Northwest. Your success is our passion. Build your legacy with HFO. Call 503-241-5541 or visit our website at hfore.com for more information.